Ready to revolutionize your higher ed marketing game?
Yes.
Well, then don't miss out on Element 451's Engage Summit, June 27 and 28. Explore the cutting edge world of education and AI technology and unleash your creativity like never before. Register today at engage.element451.com and use promo code EdUp50 for $50 off. The global gathering for educators and institutions is here. Anthology Together is where inspiration, connection, networking, and EdTech insight and innovation intersect into the premier event destination for the global education community. Registration is open. Go to anthologytogether.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Slustio here on another episode, and I'm laughing already because my two guests are making me laugh as I try to get the intros right, which I have not yet been able to do, and I'm going to try to do it here while we're recording and get them right. I had like an opening monologue, but it's totally out of my mind now. So I'm going to go right to the episode because they've got a lot to say, and I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself. I'm sweating. Currently, what's happening to me right now, I am sweating. My mouth has gone dry. My back, that's my back that's sweating. It kind of feels like one of those moments where you've got like this pressure cooker situation. That's how many words are in these titles, but they are important women doing important work, so I have to get it right. Hold on, let me get some water. All right, here we go. All right, well, okay, wait a minute. I got to get myself prepared. Take a deep breath. There's a lot here and a lot of pressure, and they're looking at me right now to make sure I get it right. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce my guests today. First, we have Malika Clinkscales. She's the Senior Associate Vice President, HBCU Center for Coaching and Excellence at InsideTrack. Malika, did we get it?
Yes, we did.
Oh my gosh. Welcome to the podcast, Malika. How are you?
Thank you. I'm well, and thank you for having me.
I just got feeling back in one arm, but I have one more introduction left, so
Let's go for two. Let's go for two.
Okay, here we go. Number two, our second amazing guest we have with us today. She is Dr. Corinne Thornburg. She's Director of Partnership Engagement, Program Development, and Effectiveness for the Partnership for Education Advancement. Corinne, how are you?
I'm doing well. 2 for 2. Good job.
Oh, and ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this episode of the EdUp Experience. But no. Now we got to talk. I'm so honored that you guys are here to talk about the work that you're doing. Malika, I'm going to bring you to the mic first. You're really not here, but you're going to come to the microphone first and talk about InsideTrack. What is InsideTrack? What do you do? How do you do it? Let's let our audience know.
Absolutely. And thank you again for having me. InsideTrack is an educational coaching and consulting company. Our work is connecting with learners through the power of coaching. We use a holistic developmental coaching methodology to really allow learners to have support as they reach their educational and career goals. So our mission, our work is really to fuel social mobility and to reduce equity gaps. And we do that really embracing values such as potential, collaboration, integrity, but really with the thought that every learner deserves a chance to obtain a college degree and pursue the career of their dreams. Often they need the partnership and collaboration of an individual, of someone in their corner, someone to help them navigate difficult and challenging corners, someone to see the wins and the success rates and to be their cheerleader, so to speak. And so InsideTrack has been in this work for over 22 years. We provide different types of coaching solutions to support the learner along their the life cycle. What does that mean? We do re-enrollment coaching, helping stopped-out learners return to school. We provide retention coaching to help the enrolled learner stay in school. We also provide career coaching and prospective student coaching, helping learners identify the right institution on behalf of the institution, understanding program goals, career opportunities, alignment. Is this the right fit, the right school for me? And then lastly, InsideTrack does capacity building work, which is our training and development work. That's one of the most exciting aspects of our work, is as we partner with partners to provide direct coaching internally, there becomes a point where it's really incumbent upon InsideTrack to help institutions build out their own coaching programs. So we do that by providing the same wraparound supports that we do internally through quality development, leadership development. So in a nutshell, we provide direct coaching, but we also train administrators, leaders, advisors, coaches around the country to build coaching programs for learners.
Amazing.
Let me ask you a quick question. When we talk about coaching and there's a big push right now for personalization of learning. And I think a byproduct of that is personalization of coaching and of journey mapping and all the things that go within somebody, I say traversing higher education and some of the barriers that exist. And some we know about, some rear their ugly head as students get through and into the guts of a college or university, and then they hit a barrier. Sometimes that barrier is external. It's food insecurity. It's where you live or where you don't live. Your environment, negative environment sometimes around you. I can't tell you how many students when you think about students dropping out of school because of a negative family influence.
Absolutely.
How much of the coaching is self-confidence building versus tactical, like do this, do that? How much of it is you can do it?
That's an excellent question, and it's embedded in. So I can't give you a breakdown, but
Right.
It's embedded throughout, because really the coaching stands on understanding a learner's knowledge, their skills, and their beliefs. And the beliefs is right where we're talking about here is understanding, does the learner even believe that they belong in school, right? So there's understanding where they are on that trajectory, and then instilling the confidence, the support to really help the learner believe that this dream, this goal is achievable. It goes right along with one of the aspects of our assessment is a health and support. And health and support happens to really lean into who else is in your corner, who else is cheering you on, or the opposite, who else doesn't think you should be in school. Is that becoming a barrier? So I would say our methodology is it's evidence-based, which allows us to be listed in the Department of Education What Works Clearinghouse. So many institutions have been able to gain our services by doing TRIO grants, Title III grants, all that type of student success work. But along with it being evidence-based and having a very a prescriptive methodology in terms of approach and execution, it is also very developmental. So it is meant to connect with the learner and also teach them how to coach themselves. InsideTrack wants to be in the business of running out of business, right? Of making sure that the learners that are engaged in coaching relationships then begin to understand the structure and the questions that the coach asks them as they are discovering themselves in this process along their higher ed journey.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be out of business anytime soon, positively or negatively. 40 million, we know there's like 40 million some college no degree students. We know many of them come from lower economic backgrounds where they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. We know that there's a multicultural majority of students that are entering higher education. Some first-gen students need direction, don't even understand simple things. I say simple things, don't even understand the things that relate to higher education, like financial aid. That is not simple, by the way, because we make everything complicated in higher ed. I always say you can do things like move $50,000 if you had that much money, I don't, between your bank accounts in about 5 seconds, but you can't do things in higher ed in 5 seconds. Typically it takes longer and there's lots of hoops.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Malika.
No, I was just going to chime in. I'm the daughter of a retired professor. And so I had no idea. What I'd like to say is how much higher education privilege I had. I grew up listening to my mom in the other room talk to her students and lead dissertations and be advisor. And so there's so much that I knew when I went to college, so much that my mom helped navigate the business side, the bursar, the financial aid office. And the reality is most learners don't have that, even if they're not first gen. Just understanding how to get through the educational system, whether it be public or private, can be an obstacle course. And so that's one of the things that we're excited about, that coaching really gives the learner their person. We're not there to replace anyone at the institution, but we serve as maybe an air traffic controller to help say, have you talked to your advisor? Have you been to financial aid? What type of questions are you going to ask your financial aid representative? Allowing them to have the space to get coached up in terms of feeling prepared for the necessary engagement, either on the business side of their educational journey or within the classroom.
Well, let's bring in our other guest too to talk a little bit about what she does. Dr. Corinne Thornburg, you're at the Partnership for Education Advancement. Tell us a little about your organization, Corinne, and what you all do.
Sure. So at Advancement, we work in collaboration with historically Black colleges and universities to develop and implement scalable, sustainable solutions on HBCU campuses. We're a relatively young organization, started in 2018 around the time of the pandemic, and found a way to serve in that capacity, particularly as it related to supporting institutions with PPE and other needs that didn't have the same resources to acquire those things for students and staff. And we have grown in serving the needs that our institutions have expressed, primarily around enrollment, student retention, graduation rates, career outcomes, and overall institutional health. So that is our focus. Our work is rooted in supporting mission-driven institutions, and ultimately through our work, impacting racial equity, degree attainment, and driving social and economic mobility for the communities that HBCU and other like institutions serve.
How are the HBCUs doing right now, Corinne? You know, it seemed like there was really a lot of attention put on HBCUs during COVID, and definitely around the donations many HBCUs received from Mackenzie Scott. And so I had the honor of interviewing some of the presidents, let's see, the president of Howard, Spelman, some others that came on the podcast, and we talked a lot about what was going on at that time, and there was sort of a resurgence, if you will, of HBCUs among the Black community. And then it kind of quieted it out, I noticed a little bit. I don't know if it's still a lot of momentum there in enrollment. Can you give us some insight on what's happening?
Sure. I think there is still a lot of momentum. Certainly, COVID happened around the same time as a lot of social unrest in the country. And so there was a lot of attention around HBCUs for any number of reasons, whether it was students and families, perhaps paying a little bit more attention than they maybe have in the past on the kinds of communities they wanted their students to be in.
That's right.
Being surrounded by folks that maybe looked more like them and had more similar type of experiences. And that hasn't waned. And so in that respect, the interest is certainly still there. I think when there was a lot of conversation about declining enrollments, many of our HBCUs, not all, but many of HBCUs saw enrollment gains. It didn't get the same kind of traction in the media, but certainly HBCU saw enrollment gains during that time. And so, I think now, campuses are focused on, increasingly more so now, how they can maximize, optimize, pull whatever resources that are coming to them to serve students and enhance the experiences of students, families, and the employees that support them on those campuses. So it's an exciting time for HBCUs, but I think it's important to underscore HBCUs are still woefully underfunded, under-resourced compared to wealthier, better resourced institutions. And so, I think at Advancement, we pride ourselves in being a partner with HBCUs and also with other organizations like InsideTrack working to support the gains on these campuses.
Yeah, for every Howard University that you have heard of, there's 2 or 3 HBCUs you haven't necessarily heard of that are year to year or every 2 years with operating budgets. They're serving hundreds, if not thousands of students, Black and otherwise. They need attention too. And so it's organizations like yours that bring that focus. And we like to have those men and women who are leading those institutions on this podcast. We give them the mic. They talk all about your institution. HBCUs are represent, I think, like what? I know Howard teaches like more doctors than any university. And then there's it's 3 or 4% of the overall enrollment in the US is at HBCU. One of the things that we didn't say, the social unrest really led a lot of Black students to look at HBCUs again to say, hey, look, we need to ensure generational wealth. We need to do these things so that we don't put ourselves in this situation again. And we have to learn how to talk to one another. And so I want to learn in a safe, belonging community. And that's why many students look back towards HBCUs. What needs to change? What needs to change for the future of HBCUs to get all of the HBCUs to be like a Howard University where they have lots of endowment dollars? You know, where's the gap?
You know, I would, you know, and certainly Malika, please chime in. I know you have a strong connection to the HBCU space. I would say, you know, a couple of things. One, you know, you were talking about outcomes at HBCUs. And I think it is important for people to remember, even though HBCUs do service a smaller portion of students percentage-wise, when you look at the numbers of doctors, lawyers, you know, scientists, whatnot, particularly those that are Black or of color, HBCUs have a greater outcome in that respect than many of our larger flagship, you know, other institutions. And think about postgraduate, you know, and success and social mobility. And so, you know, I think some of it is about continuing to get awareness as to the magnificent work that HBCUs are doing. And to the extent that we can provide the type of resources that HBCUs can certainly use to just drive the type of impact that they, you know, are really trying to drive the kind of change on their campuses. I think about the fact that you know, it's not atypical at any small campus, but particularly at an HBCUs, regardless of the size, for a person to be doing 5 jobs. And so that's where technology comes in. That's where innovation comes in. Malika talked about the work at InsideTrack and how they're not there to replace, you know, the folks that are doing the hard work at HBCUs, but just to bolster, you know, what's happening on these campuses. And so I think the more attention that can be focused at the magnificent outcomes that are happening at HBCUs and the gains that are taking place there, and the resources that they need to continue that and to do even better, I think we'll continue to see change and perhaps a leveling of the playing field, so to speak.
Go ahead, Malika.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that. I would, my mind went to similar places, but increased infrastructure and increased resources and funding. I think the capacity to meet HBCU students where they are institutionally. If you think about the institution having dealing with, you know, systematic institutional racism in the culture, like they are created because African Americans could not go to PWIs. So the nature of their establishment was navigating a social reality and then creating a safe space for for African American Black learners. So again, if you think about it from its beginning and the actual beginning origin point of them being founded, then what their origin point was in society put them at a disadvantage in terms of certain resources. And when those attitudes and beliefs are perpetuated, then systemically you'll see that separation between HBCUs and some of our predominantly white institutions. But what you can't replicate, I think, is the notion that I believe many learners experienced during that social unrest that the country experienced, particularly in 2019, 2020, is this feeling and awareness of connecting. There's a different feeling of going into an HBCU classroom, knowing that you're accepted, that you belong. You're not fighting that unspoken reality of trying to prove who you are, trying to prove that you are smart enough, trying to represent your race, right, with some type of unspoken cape. And so the opportunity to just be, to be a student, to have a dream and not have to fight for that dream in terms of proof or in a way of being defensive about your background is a very different experience. And so that familial experience that HBCU students experience, and as an HBCU graduate out, and I've been waiting to chime in on that aspect, as a Howard graduate, it is something that I've never.
Look at that. That's
look
called
at that, right?
Yeah.
As a graduate of Howard University, exactly. And I was again educated in private schools where I grew up as a minority. I was often, if not the only, one of few, representing my background. And to go to an HBCU, it was an exciting time for me to not worry about my race, to not have to prove who I was or represent someone larger than Malika Clinkscales. And that was the space and the gift I think that HBCUs are to their learners. It's a way of providing additional confidence. It's a way of giving that needed reinforcement. And so I think it is incumbent upon us in our work to figure out what are the additional programming, what is the different ways that we can provide more resources, more funding, so that these pillars of the Black community can not just exist, but also continue to thrive.
You know, you made my wheels start turning when I hear things that resonate. And even within HBCUs, and I remember my conversation with the president, Dr. Mary Schmidt Campbell, she's now retired. She was president of Spelman, where she would take it a step further and go, as a female, we want you here so you don't even need to worry about the boys. You can worry about, developing those deep relationships with one another and building strong women. And I think that HBCUs all offer a really distinctive value proposition. It's a value proposition that needs to sell itself, right? Because if you can step into an environment and immediately not worry about whether you do belong or not and have those thoughts like you do, hypothetically, you're focused more on your education,
Exactly.
right? Your energy moves to something more productive. And so hypothetically, then your outcome or your chance at a potential outcome becomes better, which is why we do see some great outcomes from HBCUs. Right. I don't know if those are correlated or connected, but I would feel, not speaking from experience here, but
there's a lot of research. Yeah. There's a lot of research in that space, that speaks specifically to that point of belonging and the sense that, oftentimes I think in higher ed, when people talk about belonging, they immediately start to think about social opportunities or opportunities to join certain clubs or things like that. And Malika certainly, hit the nail on the head in the research that speaks to it. Removing those, what may seem as barriers to feel connected and valued, and that you can be your authentic self in the space that you're in, certainly leads to greater academic outcomes, student retention, graduation, less debt. I mean, all of these things that impact degree attainment ultimately, and the successes that come with that. So that there's everything you're saying, the research supports it for sure.
And I would love to just chime in and not make it sound like it's just that HBCU learners are getting a pass either. Some of the toughest professors I ever had, they have my back up against the rope. So I don't want to be suggestive that it's just back rubbing, right? Yes, true. Very back rubbing and hand holding.
That doesn't help social mobility, right?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
So there's a framework that needs to be executed upon.
Exactly. But the belief that I could do it and the challenge that I was given, that is what I received at HBCU in a different way than I had in my prior education. And I think that's the experience for many learners. Tough love, but also with that back rub and that cheer at the same time to make you ready for the world, to make you ready for what you will have to navigate. And so my thoughts, just to be in a classroom that is full of Black minds, and knowing that these minds are becoming doctors and lawyers and engineers and scientists, when there's all types of narratives about Black individuals being able to navigate the sciences and STEM and all of that, there is a culture there that is cultivated, that the learner experiences in a way that positions them for the workforce that I just think is unchallenged.
Don't settle for average marketing strategies. Join us at the Element 451 Engage Summit, June 27 and 28, and discover how to harness the power of AI technology in higher ed marketing. Connect with industry leaders, explore cutting-edge technologies, and future-proof your marketing strategy. Use promo code EdUp50 for $50 off. Register now at engage.element451.com. Their premier EdTech event is right around the corner.
Epic.
Anthology Together is the destination for visionaries, educators, and learners ready to unleash the power of education technology. EdUp will be on site for the thought-provoking keynotes, peer-driven discussions, and unparalleled networking opportunities. We guarantee you will leave inspired and connected. You don't want to miss it. Book your tickets to Nashville for AT23, July 17th to July 20th. Register today at anthologytogether.com. One more question for you, but well, not one more question, but one that I've been hoping to ask, and I've thought about asking guests before, but since you guys have kind of brought it up, what is belonging exactly? Because we couch it in, I don't know, DEI, right? Everybody says DEI now, or DEI and J. It's almost sometimes performative at this point. I feel like institutions can, we see divisiveness around those concepts now. You don't have to look very far on the news to see examples, positive or negative. When you're talking about students, it moved originally from DEI is where it started amidst all the social justice stuff. And then it kind of came into the context of higher ed under belonging. And we use the belonging term often. I hear often, like, we have to ensure belonging. What does that mean, actually? And how do you actualize that? How do you put something into place that helps belonging? Like, if you think about, how do you connect those 2 points? Like, did you put, a picture on the wall that helps somebody feel more belonging? Did you put them with a mentor maybe so how do you actualize belonging so the student comes back or stays in school?
Sure. I would love to give Dr. Thornburg first chance at this because her research aligns with it. And then I will take the second.
I figured you'd call each other. Like, you put it, you guys go in whatever order.
I said it that way on purpose. This topic, and she does. I would love for her to answer first.
No, I mean, I love the question. I think, you're absolutely right that belonging has become kind of a buzzword. And I don't know that people really understand, what it means. I know institutions that do this with all good intentions, as did my former institution, trying to emphasize the sense of you belong here, but what does that really mean? And, in my experience, there are multiple components that feed into belonging. There's the academic belonging, the sense of believing that I can do this, that I am either prepared to be able to do this, or I can get the support that I need to be able to do this. There's the social and cultural aspects of belonging, feeling like as an individual, you're accepted and there is a space for you. You can be your real, authentic self. And in thinking about, particularly higher ed and the college search, college choice process, the general kind of overall fit, the sense that this institution is one that I can see myself at, that I believe I can not only survive, but thrive, grow, all of those things. You can't have one part of it without the other and really consider it belonging. And so that's why I made the comment, there's lots of, institutions sometimes will focus around making sure there are certain clubs for students of a particular background, whether it's race, religion, whatever the case may be. But if you're not connecting all of the pieces, and not just those pieces, but also looking at operational processes, how do things as simple as applications or questions on applications, or how a student navigates a campus, how does that fit into their sense of self, of value, of worth, all of those pieces. So it's certainly more than DEI. I mean, diversity, equity, inclusion. Nowadays they add belonging to it, so it's DEIB. It's certainly more than that, but it is at a core part of it, certainly making sure that a student can feel safe on a campus, and acknowledge that their voice is heard, that their voice has value, all of those pieces. But it has to carry over into academic experiences. It has to carry over into every facet of a campus. And not all DEI offices are primed or given the position or authority to be able to drive that kind of change systemically throughout an institution. So sometimes it can fall a little short for some students, depending on what their experiences are.
I would
Malika,
add
you want to add?
Yeah, I would. When I think about the work that InsideTrack does, the coaching methodology is actually hinged off of that notion of sense of belonging, making sure that the learner is seen and heard. And that it means cultivating a personal relationship, a one-on-one relationship, in a way that the learner is free to express their feelings, their thoughts, their fears, their goals in a safe space, and then have an environment and a support system that pushes them forward past the barriers and challenges that they're seeing. So in many ways, we use coaching as the action arm of that sense of belonging, understanding from a retention standpoint, do they feel connected to the institution? In many ways, coaching becomes a part of them feeling connected, but you can uncover in a coaching meeting that they feel isolated, that they've been to a particular department many times, or their professor has given. One of the most powerful coaching sessions I had when I was coaching many years ago at InsideTrack was with a learner who was really struggling with writing, with English being her second language. And so there was already a divide between her and her professor around her abilities based off of the comments that had been shared. So my support system for her as a coach was to really help her figure out, what are your resources? How can you get support with this? But then really boosting her confidence to really believe, yes, you do belong, even though you speak another language as your primary language. So my point is, belonging begins with being able to see the learner, to hear the learner, and then being able to act on their behalf.
I love that. The layers right now. I think the whole point of my question was there's so many layers to belonging. Even if you're working with a student, you have to start with, you belong in higher education, right? Because if you don't feel like you belong in higher education, the talking about belonging at the institution doesn't even matter at that point. So there is this layered on approach that you have to talk to a student about when it comes to belonging, pointing out along the way how they're going to get to this point of completion, how that helps them in the future, but that they belong in the system, as it were, in the positive system of higher education, if they're going for a degree or otherwise. I always find that that's a missing piece. That it's just this kind of this blanket statement, like, oh, we're going to talk about belonging. What does that mean? And what are we talking about? You know?
Absolutely. You're reminding me of a summit that InsideTrack did many years ago. And one of the best parts of any coaching conference or coaching summit that we've been a part of has always been the student panel. And we had the opportunity to have students talk about their experiences at the institution, and of course, their coaching relationship with their coach at InsideTrack. And I was never forgotten this particular introduction that one of the students gave. He was at a small community college in Alabama, and he was a junior. As a part of his introduction on this panel, he says, "My name is John. I'm from small town Alabama, USA, and people like me don't go to college." And I was like, wow, he's a junior, nearing finishing his junior year, and still a part of his identity is folks like me don't go to college. And so the work that he's had to do, and that the coaching relationship provided to bolster that belief, to help his enrollment. If the belief isn't there, the classes don't even matter. And so that is something that I think cannot be understated in terms of where learners, what they believe, and how we make those connections for them to belong so that they can achieve their goals.
I've got one more question, and I know I thought you had something you wanted to talk about, so we'll bring that up at the end. Non-degree credentials, anti-intellectualism, as it were, in higher education. You don't need a college degree. Go get some credential on the side. College degree doesn't have value. You're not going to be able to afford it. There's a million things being said about higher education right now. Dangerous things, in my opinion. Because I think it proportionally affects lower income populations right? The mom and the dad who say, you're going to college. I don't care what these other people are saying. We're paying for you to go to college. That person's going to be okay. But the person who's saving money for themselves, maybe a mom, single mom with a child or two at home, thinking about going to school to get an education or complete an education, starts listening to this, don't get a college degree. It's not going to help you. It's not worth it. And you go, what is that affecting your populations that you're working with in InsideTrack or those that you're supporting, Dr. Thornburg? Like, is that affecting people? And they're going, you know what? I heard on the news, I saw on the news that college degree just isn't worth it anymore. I'm not interested. I'm going to move on to something else.
I think there's a lot of talk about it for sure. It's certainly a topic of conversation. And, it's interesting to see how different institutions or even just organizations in general are responding to it. You see more and more offerings for things like credit for prior learning, right? Being able to look at trade experience, work experience, and institutions are trying to equate that to how that can be granted literally course credit to help make the completion completion to degree a little bit of a less stressful or more connected path for students. So certainly, I think that talk is still there. Anecdotally, I don't hear it as much in this space as I think I'm probably used to hearing it working with non-HBCUs and other spaces, but it doesn't mean that it's not pervasive. It's just not something that I'm seeing as much. Like I said, our schools are looking at gains,
That's good. That's good.
And so I think for us, the focus is through opportunities like InsideTrack, degree completion, or getting at that learner that maybe started the path, didn't finish it, but has been doing working or doing things that are connected, and how it can feed back in. Also looking at what's happening in communities. What does a particular city, town, whatever the case may be, need within that community? Is it more healthcare workers? Is it more whatever the case may be? And
probably more healthcare workers and more teachers.
Right. And I think HBCUs are doing a really good job of trying to grow their academic offerings in a way that reflects the needs of the community. And so there is a continued interest in college attainment because there's a direct connection to how it would improve that individual or the community where they live. So certainly, yeah, I mean, it's a topic, but it's interesting to see how different institutions are tackling that.
What I would add to that, and I think it's a nice tie-in, I think there are two things that we would love to share. One is the work of the HBCU Transformation Project. And I would love my colleagues.
What is the HBCU Transformation Project? See, I prepare my questions in advance. That was a good one, right?
Absolutely.
No, right. Yeah. The HBCU Transformation Project, really is a first of its kind endeavor, bringing together 3 organizations. Partnership for Education Advancement is one, in collaboration with the Thurgood Marshall College Fund and the United Negro College Fund. So really a monumental effort around 3 organizations in collaboration with our HBCU university presidents and leaders to do what we can to support their drive toward short-term, long-term aspirational goals around enrollment, degree outcomes, career outcomes, and ultimate social and economic mobility for the community. And so our primary funder, Blue Meridian Partners, invested an initial $60 million. That has
amazing.
Been used to bring all kinds of solutions, whether they're in technology-focused solutions or operational efficiencies, things like robotic processing automation or a CRM to help students and staff create more efficiencies around an admissions and enrollment process. financial aid offices and the things that they may need to streamline processes and better support students in awarding them so they can enroll. And so, we're excited about being part of that initiative and the continued funding that's being granted to the three arms of the organization under Blue Meridian and HBCU Transformation Project. And through that initiative, multi-year commitment to support institutions, specifically HBCUs, at least through 2026, potentially beyond, and the gains that they will see in the community. And so we're uniquely positioned to truly be collaborative. This is not any one of us going into an institution and telling them how they can be better. These leaders have know what it is that they need. They know what they're doing. They know what their students need. Like I said, they're just not as well resourced or not as well positioned with resources as other institutions. And so we feel very fortunate to be able to collaborate and work with them and help alleviate some of the pain points in getting those resources and being a continued partner as they stand up these different initiatives or solutions and optimize, to the point where this becomes sustainable for them and it outlives any grant, it outlives any partnership, but it becomes something that is truly embedded in the institution and becomes a fabric of how the institution operates and how they support students and the employees that work there. So,
wow.
The initiative with InsideTrack is one of the first that we are involved in with Thurgood Marshall College Fund that is directly supporting students through direct student interaction. And so particularly, with me coming from admissions background and retention background and all the research and belonging and whatnot, I'm extremely excited about the partnership with InsideTrack and what we expect to see from it.
We are excited as well, and it gives us the opportunity to work with so many institutions through the HBCU Transformation Project and the collaboration with these three organizations. InsideTrack will work with nearly 50 HBCUs, have the opportunity to provide coaching for nearly 50,000 learners through different aspects of coaching. And we're most excited about the opportunity to then provide training and development to help each of the institutions that we're working with to build out their own coaching program. So that means this multi-year engagement, most of them are 4-year engagements with multiple coaching solutions happening. So reaching out to the stopped out student, helping them to receive gains and getting in touch with learners that may have left for a host of different reasons. We are able to, through the coaching dynamic, understand what happened, provide those insights back to the institution so they can also improve and change and sharpen their own effectiveness in their own enrollment processes with their learners, but then also on things that are actionable, get those learners back to those institutions to continue their degrees. Able to support with retention. Many schools, it will be the first year learner, but it could be a second year, whatever pain point these institutions have identified as a tipping point at their institution, then the coaching for retention will support in that aspect. But the direct coaching will start for those institutions in those two areas first. By the second half of the program, year 3, certainly some in year 2, we begin the training and development work because we also know it's a process for these institutions to adopt a different way of connecting in student success, to have a coaching methodology. They're doing amazing work. And so our work is not to come in to criticize or evaluate, but only to supplement, and having a standardized approach for connecting and coaching with learners. It requires some change and adaptation. So we use the change support methodology to support our own initiative. And at the end of that, institutions will leave with a train-the-trainer network that allows them to have InsideTrack training on their campuses. So that's important to us because that means that there's sustainability, that after these amazing funds have been used and executed, that the institutions are better with having that knowledge and the ability to change as they grow and evolve year to year to year.
All right. Well, that was impressive.
There's a lot in there for everybody to listen to. I will say, and you guys will appreciate this. So Not too long ago, I released a book with a co-author called Commencement, The Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education. It was based on the first 125 presidents that we interviewed, many HBCU presidents in that total. And one of the chapters is about partnerships and how without the innovative partnerships, higher ed will not survive the way we hope it will survive. It takes innovation and partnerships, not only to stand up institutions for sustainability purposes for the student, but also to create lifelong learning ecosystems, which is really what we're talking about. How do you get through and get out and return and stay part of a community and get coaching and training when you need it? I just applaud you both for your work here. Congratulations. I'm glad we can bring some earballs, as they say. We say earball, some voices and some ears to this amazing partnership that you guys have developed. I can hear the passion in your voices. So I could tell that this is passion work, not just work. And that makes a big difference when you have students involved. It's got to be passion work. So anything else that either of you would like to say about your places of business, anything that we may have missed, anything we forgot to announce? If you forgot to announce something, you can announce it again. And then we'll close it out. Nothing?
I feel like we covered all the things. I think just for the purposes of those that are not familiar with InsideTrack, InsideTrack is a nonprofit organization. And so that's an important part of our identity. And that's why collaborating in initiatives like this are so important to us. But that would be the only thing that I might add.
And the only call out I will make is to the institutions. None of the work that's taking place would be possible without the interest of our campuses and their continued engagement and involvement. Like I said, we feel very fortunate to be in true collaboration with our campuses. And so I'm grateful every day for being part of the HBCU community through this work, and look forward to the continued work that we'll do with our colleges and universities.
100%.
That's disruptive agreement. We like to keep you on your toes here at the EdUp Experience. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to outro my guest. You have heard from Dr. Corinne Thornburg of Partnership for Education Advancement and Malika Clinkscales from InsideTrack. See, I was going to say Inside Higher Education. I have no idea what I'm doing. InsideTrack. Check them out. I leave in all my mistakes on this podcast so people realize, like, these are not perfect. We just roll through the mistakes, just like life, just like working with students. With that, ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd. Experience Element 451's Engage Summit Conference this June and get ready to unleash the power of AI in higher ed marketing. Deep dive into how this emerging tech will revolutionize the education landscape, from personalized student engagement to turbocharging your marketing efforts with AI. These sessions are guaranteed to help you smash your enrollment goals. Connect with like-minded professionals, explore cutting-edge ed tech products and services, and leave with the knowledge to supercharge your institution's growth. Don't wait. Register now at engage.element451.com and seize your chance to lead the pack in the AI-driven education revolution. Use promo code EdUp50 for $50 off your registration. Now, what can you expect at AT23? That's Anthology Together 2023. Well, expect to look into the future, expand your network, and explore solutions with experts. You're going to hear from industry thought leaders. You're going to connect with countless opportunities and people representing different institutions across the globe. You might even get to test out some new tech and help drive future anthology technology. That's right, Anthology Together. Registration is open at anthologytogether.com.